morning, good afternoon, happy Monday. Welcome into April, a new season of spring. I feel so renewed and optimistic now that the weather is finally nice in my place of the world, and it's feeling good. And if you celebrate Easter, hopefully you had a relaxing Easter. If you wanted to share anything that you did with maybe your chosen family, your children, or if you chose to back out of the holiday, that's great too. Today we are talking, well, we like to start a new month always with a little bit of mindset to help us get us reset. We're also talking about parenting, specifically with older children today. And maybe we'll get into a little bit about just planning in the dark. We always like to kind of reinforce that message. When you feel like you can't do much, you can still do something in the dark, like a ninja. So we always like to start with the meditation. So, Kristen, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Anna, and welcome everyone. Let's start today's session as always. Let's get nice and comfortable, ensuring our spine is nice and straight, feet firmly on the ground. Maybe you're lying down still. And whenever you're ready, we can just close our eyes and bring ourselves to the present moment. Not worrying about our to-do lists today or for this next hour. This hour is for you. We're going to start by bringing our awareness to our breath, our anchor. Now it's natural. I want you to know it's natural for our thoughts to wander. That's our brain's job. But we use our breath as an anchor to come back to whenever our over the nose and slowly exhale. And again, deep breath in through the nose, maybe for a count of 5. And slowly exhale through the mouth. Maybe you exhale with a little sigh. And again, one deep breath in. Just bringing ourselves to the present moment. And exhale. Now, as we allow our breath to return to its natural rhythm, nothing forced, nothing controlled. I want you to bring your awareness to your body. Just gently notice where you might be holding any tension. Maybe it's in your jaw, your shoulders. Maybe it's in your chest. Maybe you're clenching your buttocks. And just envision every area just softening. Release the tension. Just let it soften slightly. You don't need to fix anything. Just notice. Now bring your awareness to your feet and feel the connection to the ground beneath you. Steady, supported.
Imagine being able to build an
Even if
app with
life
your
feels uncertain right now,
Meet Base for
in this moment, you are grounded. Now I want you to slowly scan up from your feet, up your legs, past your knees and your thighs. Just a gentle awareness of your body. Up past your sitting bones, up your spine, down your arms and into your hands. Just gently scanning. You don't need to have all the answers today. You don't need to fight every battle. You are allowed to pause, to choose, and to respond with clarity. As we allow the sense of calm to wash over us, we're going to take one more deep breath in and a slow breath out. As you gently bring your awareness back to the room and the space around you, and wiggle your fingers and your toes, bring some movement back in. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Beautiful. I don't know if Kristen's okay. You're there. I was just gonna take it over really quick because I have a question that I already know Kristen's answer, but I wanted her to maybe answer as well as Melissa and myself. But kind of as we're going into this transition season, I feel like there's a lot of things maybe happening. Maybe wintertime was your time for a little bit of isolation, for maybe some quiet darkness. And now, as we head into spring, I feel like literally or metaphorically, a lot of things are shifting, coming into bloom. And I wanted to ask everyone, even the ones viewing, what is something that you've cleaned out recently, whether that be literally or metaphorically? So maybe it's something in your space, or maybe it's something in your head, whatever it might be. I'll put the questions here in the comments. But Kristen, what about you? What have you cleaned out recently, literally or metaphorically?
I'm giggling because literally everything. I've moved house now for the third time in the last 5 years. And the last 2 times I had help with packing and things. And this time I was very stubborn, even though my family and friends were like, let us help, let's do a packing party. I wanted to do it myself because I realized when other people help you with your baggage and your stuff, they don't know what you still need, what memories are attached. So this time I did everything myself. I moved a 4-bedroom house into a 3-bedroom home and I cleansed everything. I found still stuff from my marriage that I felt was energetically still. I felt stuck when I picked them up. I felt stuck. So I cleansed a lot. I've gutted, I donated, I sold, I recycled, and let me tell you, I'm almost settled in this new home and it feels so good to cleanse and to let go of things that no longer serve you. I used Marie Kondo's little trick on does this spark joy with everything that I was packing. And anything that no longer sparked joy, I let go of it, whether it be clothes. It helps a lot with clothes because we often have so many. I don't know if anyone else has a lot of clothes, but I have a lot of like shoes and bikinis. Bikinis is one of them. And I just had to look at it and does it spark joy? If it doesn't spark joy, it goes to, if it's still got life in it, donate it to some home or wherever your donation place of choice. And that in itself is really good. That feels good to give to other people as well. So I think most of us have more than what we need. And if you're navigating divorce, which most of you, our viewers are, there's a lot that you don't need to take into your new space. And if you are going through the move or you are downscaling in some way, yes, it can feel scary. But we have so much more than we actually need. And once I also believe, let go of some of that stuff, you make space for new. and you make space for things that are more aligned with this version of yourself. So yeah, a lot of cleansing, a lot of letting go, and I'm feeling good for it. I have to be honest, I feel a lot lighter for it. So yeah. How
That's
about you,
great.
Melissa? What's spring bringing for you?
I don't know, but I know that I've been paying attention to what people have been talking about, like in the horoscopes and, like where the planets are. And there's like 7 planets in Aries or something, which hasn't happened in like hundreds of years. And Aries is my sign. And so like that's to me is like a lot of fire coming down. Yeah. So it's usually like new beginnings, new time, like starting over, everything is going to change. And I think that that goes hand in hand with like cleaning things out. It's just, I'm more esoteric of like limiting beliefs and getting rid of all of that, doing things the old way, like just becoming a little bit different in that capacity. But I think we should be kind of changing all of the time. So cleaning stuff out, I don't know. How about all the bad juju? Whatever.
That's great. For me, I'm trying to think. Well, I did a huge closet clean out last weekend, which felt so good. I mean, I hate that, but I need to. So I took myself shopping as a treat, but then because I shopped, I had to clean out everything. And so I don't know why, but I have like such an attachment to physical items. Like a sweater I haven't worn in 2 years, but why do I keep it? Because I like it and I don't know what type of emotion it evokes, but I finally was like, Anna, it's time. It hasn't been worn in a year. It needs to go bye-bye. So yeah, I had, I think, 2 full trash bags of clothes that I either donated or I'm selling on an app, like a resale app here. So a little extra cash or some donations. So that felt good. And then another thing that felt good cleaning out is I needed to work a little bit over the weekend, but I didn't want to actually work. So I dedicated an hour and all I did was go through all of my files and I got rid of all like duplicate copies of things that are saved on Canva that do not need to be no longer on my laptop as like storage. So I think I cleared about like 20 gigabytes of data worth of files on my computer, which that felt really, really good. And then lastly, I did like an emotional cleaning of setting some boundaries with some clients, and some received it well, others did not. And so it cleansed out the ones that, like you're saying, Kristen, goodbye to unalignment and space for new opportunities. So I think I kind of hit a lot of different physical and maybe emotional cleaning out of. But we already had some comments here. One of our viewers is trying to cleanse her property statement. So Melissa, I'm sure that she might be working with you or you can help her with that. And then someone asked Melissa, are you Aries sun or moon sign?
I think it's my sun sign. So it's like my main sign. I don't know. Like I lost interest to understand like the moon and everything else. But if anybody wants to talk about it, whatever is happening right now, because it's huge, like new moon and all of these planets align, like it's like a crazy, like start everything new, anything that you've been putting off, like get rid of everything. So I think it's an interesting time. So like if people are feeling that pull, because I mean, a lot of times in divorce, we're kind of at this low point. And so I'm like, okay, well then let's reinvent everything. Like how are you going to do this different? Because it's not working. You've been in process for 6 to 12 months. Obviously, whatever you're doing is not working. So, do something crazy and shift it and see if it can't get worse sometimes. So it's like, okay, then let's try something completely new.
Right.
And I think that's what you guys are going to talk about a little bit, even about, reinventing yourself in the digital world and, not focusing on all of the things that kind of went wrong, but maybe focusing on how things could be recreated right in some capacity. So it'll be interesting. But if anybody knows, because I feel like somebody in the comments knows some horoscope things, like tell us, tell us
Yes.
what's really going on.
Yeah. Any questions, any comments, anything you want to talk about today? We're kind of having like a more relaxed energy for us this Monday. So if you're feeling that same feeling, you're with us. But Kristen, I wanted to hand it back to you because I know that your session, if you want to talk about parenting mindset, whatever, you lead it off.
Yeah, I wanted to give, since we went a little bit on our woo-woo and juju stuff, I wanted to use a quick symbolic thing that had happened to me with my whole move. Is I had this beautiful wicker heart made, and I had it in the background when I had my home birth for my son. And it has moved since I got divorced with me to each of these homes. And when I was packing this time, I had it at my front door in the old house. And I looked at it, and all of a sudden, I had blocked out completely. I was like, where did I actually get this thing from? It was a wedding gift. And it was older now and tattered, and it was by my front door. And I looked at this thing and I thought, well, please in the comments let me know if any of you believe in any of this sort of symbolic stuff. But I've not had any relationships since my divorce. I had one that didn't work out at all. But other than that, love life has not been my priority. And I looked at this and I had this aha moment of, well, surely an old wicker tattered broken heart that I got from my wedding that I'm no longer in, hanging by my front door cannot mean something good. It cannot be inviting goodness in that area of my life. So I took it into the fire pit and I burnt it. And I had a whole little juju moment. And there's just this little wire frame left. And I was like, well, am I going to chuck this or am I going to mend this? Am I going to maybe get macrame on this wire and make a new heart? And I just felt like this was a moment to share with anyone. If you're going through the divorce and if you believe in the horoscopes, whatever your belief systems are, if you have that moment and you see something and it sparks an ick or it sparks a good, or you have those, I sometimes call them my God winks, like God is winking down and being like, hey, have you thought about that heart? It's not really the best thing to be doing there. So I believe in those sort of things. And whether it's real or not, as Melissa was talking about limiting beliefs, I believe that released a belief system for me. Like me burning that, I now have a belief of I'm going to mend this heart and I'm physically going to do something and create something new and beautiful. So just thought I'd share that little symbolic moment that I had with my move. But today I do want to talk about how to navigate divorce without losing yourself, because in all honesty, it's a phrase that's quite tough to understand, without losing yourself. But I think divorce in itself is losing the old version of you. It is actually losing yourself, and that can feel very destabilizing. And when you're specifically going through divorce, I want to focus a little bit on with your teenagers this year, or this session, with your teenagers or kids older than 14. You're now not just managing everything for them as a kid, as when they were younger. You're rediscovering yourself whilst they're rediscovering themselves. So it takes on, the work shifts when you're getting divorced with older children versus getting divorced with younger children. Your older children's whole identity also feels like it shifts. I don't know if anyone's here in the comments, please let me know if you do have any teens, what you're noticing with them going through divorce. What is their identity shift? What identity shifts are they going through? Are they struggling? Are you struggling to help support them? Please, today, I want you guys to let me know what you're specifically going through so we can help you. But like when our children are younger, divorce is about structure. But when our children are older, like I said, divorce becomes more about identity. So you're navigating the relationships that they're having with the other parents, the other family, the influence that the other parents and family have, boundaries, and your own healing all at the same time. And sometimes the other relationships with the other parent is not an easy one. And you've got to almost navigate your own personal feelings, but also I've worked with clients in cases where they need to support their kids' relationship with the other parent. And then there's cases where they actually need to protect their children from the other parent, and it's a completely different case. So, first thing I want to say is, when do we fight and when do we need to step back? Melissa, I am going to pull you into this question specifically when you're going through the divorce, but when to know when to fight and when to step back, not just in parenting, but in divorce, because not every battle does deserve your energy. Fighting everything could weaken your position. You don't need to be fighting everything. Your children are always watching how you respond and not just what you say. So before I ask Melissa on areas that you've seen people potentially fighting where it's unnecessary or not fighting enough, my framework for what you should be fighting for is safety, health, core values, and your respect. Now, there could be other things. There are a lot of other things, but if they fit into those 4 categories, whether if it's fitting into your children's safety, or you need to move a home and it's not in a safe area, or health, your core values on your kids, maybe that has to do with religion or their sporting or their academics, and your respect. Now, respect is a hard one when you're going through divorce because there's not a lot of respect going around. Potentially the respect broke down within the marriage. But those are 4 things that I would say you definitely should always be fighting for. And then we step back from fighting things that are preferences, control, when it has to do with control, ego triggers, being right for the sake of being right. So you could start asking yourself questions like, is this about my child's well-being, or is this about my need to be heard? Will this matter in 5 years? Will this matter in 5 months? I like to do will this matter in 5 weeks, 5 months, or 5 years? If it's not going to matter in any of those, then you're going to drop it. Am I protecting or am I reacting? Because a lot of my clients I see with or deal with, a lot of what they're fighting is about being heard, about being right, or their own level of control that they're not ready to let go of. Melissa, do you have any patterns that you have seen when it comes to, I know we are on the kids, but I do want to also tie it into just fighting for the wrong kind of things, or when to step back in your negotiation situations? Where have you wished people step up more, and where do they not step up enough?
Well, I think trusting their instincts or their intuition is one area that people don't lean into, either to switch attorneys, to hire certain people, to fire certain people. And I think it's just facing a reality. So sometimes there's just a painful reality financially that we need to face. And it's understanding what position you can take. You know, we talked a little bit before we started about how you're creating a story for the court, for the mediator, for your attorney. And if you want major custody, or if you want certain positions dealt with in the parenting plan, you're going to have to prove your story. And it can't be a he said, she said story. So it could be getting a parenting coordinator that does an assessment on your child and talks to your teenager about, you know, what they want. It could be, you know, getting this third party data and information that backs up your story. And because I think somebody asked about kind of planning in the dark, you know, for custody and things like that. Well, if you know that that's going to be an issue, that you're going to want more custody, the other person is always going to fight it because of the money. They want it to be even so that they're not paying child support, right? So if you have really a position that they should be more with you, you have to get some of that corroborating evidence, which would be people doing an assessment, telling the GAL that the kid doesn't want to live with the father or doesn't want to live with the mother, whatever it is, that you are backing up the story and the position that you are entering in regarding the kids or the finances. And so I think that that's where you plan, is to, have this be, in the finances, it's like, I don't trust this tax return. Why am I continuing to sign it? Like those types of things that are going to cause a little bit of chaos because everybody's going to be taken aback by it. What are you going to ask for, or what do you need to ask for in a custody fashion, or a lot of medical rights? You might have a child that has a very complex medical situation and one parent has been there and one parent has not been there. So I think it's just facing, can you create an enforceable agreement? And if you can't, then you're going to have to let some of it go. Like, oh, they shouldn't cuss at their house. You're not going to be able to enforce that. So that's not going to be part of an agreement, like letting go of some of these things that you have no control over and an agreement cannot enforce is going to be where you're not going to fight. You're going to fight over the things that move the needle, the furthest, the financially make an adjustment and that's where the strategy comes in. That's where understanding this process and what can be put in a parenting plan and what is not effective in parenting plans, so it's understanding your situation and how you can use expertise to back up your story when you're kind of going to the court for a position.
Yeah, and I love what you said there, Melissa, is use different experts. If you're planning in the dark and you know that you've got a custody hearing coming up, but it's going to be he said, she said, or he said, she said, and she said is with the kid, and it's the kid against the dad. Let's use the example, your kid, your teenager, your 14-year-old does not want to go to dad's house. If you know this is the case before your custody hearing, as Melissa said, then you start already getting a GAL involved, or I have done this with previous clients, go to a court-approved child therapist, psychologist, and have them write a report. What they generally are going to do is they're going to do 4 to 8 sessions, observe the child, do a lot of different activities, do a lot of different conversations. Younger children, I recommend play therapists as well. But there are psychologists and therapists that can write a court report. They can obviously even testify as well. But just that report will be enough that it's not just your word against theirs. It's a third-party professional that is going to state, I've noticed anxiety when this 14-year-old son talks about dad, or I've noticed, a bit of aggression comes out, and they will be able to give you a report for the court. So that's your part of planning in the dark, is preparing for that fight for the day in court. You may need to get permission from the other parent for an evaluation, but you don't need to say that the evaluation is for XYZ. You can just say the evaluation is just to check in on your teenager with the divorce process. And that is what a professional will do. They're not going to hone in and say, do you want to go to your dad? They're going to give you an overview of what your child, of all the areas that your children need support in. Then, sorry, I lost my stuff. Yeah. So your power is also not in reacting the whole time if the other parent is fighting you on everything. You don't need to react to everything. Your power is choosing to stand firm in your beliefs. Stand firm. If you know that your 14-year-old is not going to want to go to dad's house, we're not going to force. What you don't do is you don't force them. Definitely not, because Melissa and I spoke about this earlier, is a parenting agreement is between the parents, and it's seen often that teenagers don't want to follow the parenting agreement. They don't want to follow what you the parents have agreed on. So you may need a more flexible parenting plan. You may need, because your teenagers also want more autonomy. They want more fluidity. They want to hang out. Maybe one parent lives closer to the school or the areas that all their friends are. So there's a lot more to it in their lives that is established, that teenagers tend to need more flexibility. But we definitely don't want to be forcing a teenager. It's not on you to force a child to go to the other parent. All you do in those scenarios is you try and encourage, you try and get to what the reasoning is, and you document it. Because it's not your job to force your child to go to the other parent. You do need to prove that you have supported it, but you cannot force a child, specifically a teenager. And no court is going to, or I hope no court is going to hold it against you for not picking your teenager up and throwing them in the car and pinning them down. So yeah, we're definitely not going to force our teenagers. A nice little sentence that you could say is, I hear you, I'm not going to force your feelings, but we still have an agreement that we need to respect. So let's talk about a very simple thing that you can use for any teenagers not wanting to go. I'm not going to force your feelings, but we do have an agreement in place. Let's talk about what's making this hard. Maybe they want shorter times. Maybe it could be they want a PlayStation or an Xbox at the other house. With teenagers, it could be something very simple. Are there any questions there yet? Sorry, guys, I can't see the questions here. And let's see here. I want to hop into some questions before they become too long.
Yeah, we have quite a bit, so take your time.
Okay, yeah. So if you want to do some questions, because then we might build up onto the next topic with more. If you can read them to me, then I can.
Sure. So Melissa read this earlier, but I'll say it again. So someone asked, what are all the ways we can be planning in the dark with regards to finances and custody parenting if these are the biggest issues? So I don't know if you want to comment on the parenting custody on that yet.
Definitely getting all your documents ready, getting the children's medical records, their school records. You want documentation ready, making sure that you have all of their educational records, their medical records. There's not too much that you can necessarily plan without the other parent, because you're going through custody. So legally they have the right to have all of the documents and all of the documentation as well. If you are, I don't know if this is right to say, but please don't quote me. I don't know if this is legal even to say, but if you are getting divorced with kids and there's stuff and things, let's use an example of your stuff in your home. This is just my personal little tip. If you've got 20 plates,
I think we lost
5 plates. Every tiny little detail. Sorry, I froze there for a second, I think.
You're back. You're good.
I've dealt with clients who have had to leave with teenagers, but the other spouse is
that just her, or we still?
Yeah, it's her.
Okay, so
did you want to answer maybe more of like planning in the dark with the financial stuff?
Well, I mean, I think it is collecting the data, but it's also trying to start with that position statement. And, what do you want at the end will keep you focused on what the reality is of is it attainable? So, and that's where you have a strategy to fight or to concede to certain things. But I think anywhere planning with, your position statement is going to get everybody very clear on the things that you're focused on that are actually going to move the needle. So, Kristen, you're back.
Hi, guys. I'm sorry about that. let's go on to the next question.
Sure.
I don't know where I dropped off of.
So one lady said, my weird spot, it's just me and my 17-year-old son. And then she pops down, he'll be 18 at the end of May. It's a delicate balance, my heart for him. And yes, his dad, a skilled offender, manipulator. So many dynamics at play. The thing I hate the worst, seeing and watching what his dad does to me, how his dad treats me, and how it affects and harms me. Not a good thing for a child to witness, let alone its effects on him, direct and indirect.
I would like to ask you if you've had conversations about it with him. And I know that might sound silly, but I've had parents that say, no, I don't want to talk to them about it. You should always keep that communication open if possible. But stating if how his dad treats you is not right, then you should say that to your son. You should say, it's not right that behavior. Now, we don't ever want, we always try and distinguish the person from the behavior, because ultimately it is still his dad. But if you're saying his behavior is not right, his behavior is not how you should treat women, because I know I'm a mom of 2 boys. I know I am very strict on the type of boys that I am trying to raise going forward, and how they should treat not just women, but anyone else. So I hope that you are having those conversations. Don't feel like that you can't have those conversations with him, but just saying, I know that this is uncomfortable for you to see. It's not right, hence the divorce. But do have those open conversations. Don't just slide it under the rug. I had a client who hadn't had any conversations with her son, and he was 15, and she just thought he'll learn eventually. I was like, no, yes, he will learn. Yes, he will see eventually, but it doesn't mean that you can't still have an open, honest conversation with him without bashing the other parent. You can be honest without negatively speaking about another parent. You can say that the behavior is not right. Hopefully the other parent works on that. Hopefully the distance and the divorce is what's going to help that. But just not saying anything, I don't see that is in general the best approach. I hope that helps a little bit. It is tough, but yeah, I hope that helps.
Yeah, she did follow up and said, yes, we've had conversation. We have a pretty great communication for where we're at and what we've gone through. Now, there's someone else that mentioned that her kids are 13 or 12 and 8, but she's definitely thinking about their teenage years. We're 7 months since he filed, but we haven't told our kids about the divorce yet. So that was the first question. And then there's a follow-up question if you want to address that first.
Okay. I would like to know, are you living in the same home still? If you've not told the kids about the divorce, are they aware of the separation? Children feel it. They know even if you don't say anything. So my recommendation is to try and have that conversation sooner rather than later. I do have some freebies that I can send you on telling the kids, but your children know. They are going to feel that something's not right. They're going to see the way you both interact with each other. They're going to feel the difference. I do kind of need to know whether you're still living together, if you're still in the same environment, or has your soon-to-be ex moved out already. What do the children know about that scenario? So I might wait for that, but I recommend having that conversation. If you can't have that conversation together, ideally you do always want to have the conversation about divorce with children with both parents. However, if it's going to be more of a fight and more toxic with both parents, then just do it one parent. Ensure that you are not bad-mouthing. Ensure that they know that it's not their fault. Ensure that you reassure them that you will always be there for them. Your love for them doesn't change. Yeah.
And then there's a follow-up to that, but I think this, I'll get back to the second one, but this is a separate situation that I think also kind of relates. So she says, my ex and family, biological and in-laws, have been convinced by ex I'm alienating them from our young adults, furthest from the truth. Have to let time reveal the truth. And then she follows up and says, I could never have a full conversation about how I am treated because I quickly realized the ex was planting toxic seeds and lies. I had to let time and me being in a safe space be the answer. So not really a question, but just a comment that relates. Oh, and I think she's frozen again.
No. So, I mean, this kind of centers a little bit around, parental alienation. And again, a lot of people are dealing with kids that I'm seeing between 14 and 18 and 20, or even older kids. And so in some of these things, I think that I'm going to take a little bit different route and say, you need to encourage your children to be having candid conversations with both of you about their desires. And if that means getting them more confident with their therapist, if that means having them talk to the GAL, like you need to get them to advocate for themselves if this is really important, or else, it's going to be a 50-50 type of situation. Now, the parental alienation is typically a toxic individual that is kind of coming in and instigating in some capacity, but typically they're also using money as the sort of controlling factor. So that's the harder part, is when you're trying to get the child to be honest about what's going on, but there's a financial impact because of coercive control or something like that. So there's a lot of all of those issues going around. And sometimes you have to let the kid learn through this experience, who to trust and who to not trust. It's difficult. Kristen, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you guys,
Okay.
but I did cut out there again. Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments. I'm not sure which comment you read there.
It was still the one about how the ex is planting seeds and was not able to have full conversations with her young adults and feels kind of like parental alienation is happening.
Yeah. Is it the same person that's read here that her 15-year-old son is triangulating now?
No, that's different. We haven't read that one yet.
Okay.
The one right
yeah.
above. So I don't know if you have anything else to add, or we can go ahead and go to the next comment.
I don't right now.
Okay, then let's go to the next comment. So someone said, what if a 15-year-old son triangulates and uses similar manipulation strategies he saw modeled? I learned to hold boundaries, but I worry these patterns are being hardwired. How do I advocate?
I spoke to Melissa earlier about this as well with teenagers. That is the problem, is they may then play the parents off of each other. So you need to, like you said, hold your boundaries, and you stay firm in what you don't waver, and you're staying grounded, firm in your boundaries. And that's kind of all you can do. If there is a therapist or support that you can get for your,
Yeah, I think it's difficult. Kristen's having some technical difficulties. I think that I've seen a lot of people in this same situation where they have a child that is kind of drinking the Kool-Aid of the toxic parent. And I've seen some situations where they've had to really get to a point where they were that child was with the other spouse and lived there primarily, because it wasn't really even for the mental health of the mother to have the child when there was so much toxicity or, bad behavior, kind of replicating the abusive behavior of a really toxic spouse. And sometimes they had to separate them. There has been, quite a few situations where I've seen estrangement between the children and the parents until they did get older, until they got to like 22, 24 kind of area where they can start to, see their parents as people and understand what really happened. But I think you have to continue to hold the boundaries. The question is how extreme do the boundaries need to be, and how comfortable are you with doing that? Does the situation warrant that? And that's an option.
Yeah, and if you have a son who's all these sons are 14 and over, you do need to hold that boundary firmly, that it's not okay to speak to, firstly, their mother like that, or a woman, or a partner. So, as Melissa says, stick with your boundaries, stand firm, and understand that even if they are susceptible to the manipulation now, they may end up, they are going to get older, and they are going to realize
I'm going to jump here to a question, Melissa, that you might not be, or you might be able to answer. Someone said, how can I bring up the child's 529 plan we set up? He did not disclose on his financial statement, and it may be a place where he places cash.
I mean, it just should be listed as an account that you have and that there's money in it. If he didn't disclose it, I mean, if they're hiding cash in it, but it's still going to be for the benefit of the child. I don't think that that's a place where they would try to probably hide cash per se. That's not a typical place. So, but they would control it. So if they're just putting a bunch of money in there, a 529, I have seen where people have put $100,000 in some sort of plan in the name of the children, and the courts have still brought it back. So they can't just go stockpile money in there. But normally 529 plans are run by one parent. So one parent remains in control of that money, and they could use it against kid, but they might not have known they had to disclose that account, even if it's a kid's account. So, but probably not where they're hiding anything.
Okay, so given Kristen's technological pauses, because every time she gets into an answer, it pauses, but we will take note of these questions, and she can send some answers out in an email reply. But I think we also wanted to talk more about planning in the dark, whether it's financials. Kristen kind of gave the custody. Melissa started talking about it. And I also think just in general, planning your business, planning what you're going to do when you come out of this, maybe redefining who you're going to be. So, Melissa, this is a question that I think, so I know this isn't content week, but it is something that we always get asked. And I think it's something that's worth bringing up right now. Sorry to kind of pause the parenting conversation. I know it was really great, but we're just going to go with the flow. Melissa and I get asked a lot of the time, when you are going through a divorce and you have a great idea to start a business, maybe you've been working on something for 2-3 years and you're finally ready to launch, but you're like, okay, but the papers still haven't been filed. I'm still technically in this marriage. What am I supposed to be doing? And so Melissa and I recorded a great session about this last week. It will be live eventually. We're creating a bigger product with it. But Melissa, what should someone do if they're currently going through a divorce, but they're ready to launch, they're ready to move on, but that paperwork still hasn't been filed?
Yeah, and I think specifically we had a client that asked some of these questions because it creates income, so some of the things are, if you're creating income or cash flow, is that going to impact impact your divorce calculations? Now you have some new money coming in. Does that change anything? So the planning in the dark concept is really, how do you start to put together some of those seeds of an idea and maybe put together a website or put together some social or create some content or build some of it as a distraction mentally, but also so that when you are divorced, you can kind of pull the trigger on that business concept and be hyper prepared for a launch. A lot of times those expenses are being expensed, either under an LLC that you create or a sole proprietorship. So a lot of times it'll just be under like your name, right? Or something very simple that you're getting some little consulting money from. But going full bore, like I've seen people like sign a book deal, and the book deal had some, upfront payment and then had planned on, some sort of revenue in the future. And they would argue, okay, well, I should get some portion of that into the future. That's not really how the court always works, but that's going to be an argument that they have. So why create that type of argument if you have a business that hasn't really had a client, doesn't have a live website? You can do all of these things in the dark, and it could take, like, if any of us relaunched our business, I think we would easily say it could take like 3 to 6 months, and then we would have everything actually done and ready to launch. All of us just launched and then learned, and made mistakes for a couple months. So I think that if you're in the middle of divorce and you need a distraction from planning and, doing all of the things for the divorce process, then focus on spending a little money in that space, but maybe not taking on clients yet. Just have it be what you're putting in place for the future. And you could talk about it. I mean, it's not like you're hiding it. You're like, okay, I'm going to, have a cookie making company. I'm going to start a tax, preparation company or something like that. Like you can talk about that. That actually would probably look good in the court system because you're saying what you intend. Like you're not just planning on, not working forever, but you need something that fits within the schedule of dropping the kids off, or I'm homeschooling my children, or I have a special needs child that I actually need to be here for, or, we have like kids on the spectrum. We have non-binary kids that, like all sorts of types of issues that require one parent to stay at home. And so, but if you're saying, well, I'm trying to, put together the side hustle, that could look good, but I haven't done it yet, means that it's not yet a divisible asset in the proceedings. And so you would just get it because it isn't. It's a startup. It's in the infant stage. But by the time you get divorced, 3 months later, 6 months later, you have something that's ready to go that could be cash flow to you while you stayed at home or, during an interim part. Sometimes maintenance or alimony is temporary, for 6 months or 12 months or a short time period. So you need to figure out what you're going to do at the point that no longer exists.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always talk about, well, specifically, Melissa talks about like document, because that's part of the, you're doing that for the mediator, you're doing that for the lawyer, you're doing that for yourself, but you can also start doing that at like a parallel way with whatever you're creating. So maybe you're not necessarily 100% sure what you want to do. Document the process of you finding out what that idea is. Document the things you really enjoy doing. Document the things that bring you stress. Document the things that your thoughts just on an everyday. I mean, so many of the time we are getting women who are currently going through this divorce who want to come out and be some type of coach or a leading guide or a light for other women going through this. I mean, Kristen started her business on co-parenting because she actively is raising children while she was going through the process. Now she's out of it, combined with past experience of being a teacher and working with additional needs students. So it's just all about, when we're say planning in the dark, we're not saying that you just have to be a complete ghost. We're saying that you can do things without being 100% public or live. So I think if we talk about content, and when I'm saying document it, if you want to be on video, maybe have a phone that makes sure no iCloud is being shared. It's just on your phone. And start videoing. You don't even have to look good. You can be in your pajamas. You can be in your robe. It could be in the morning, lunchtime, nighttime, after the kids are going to bed, Talk about all your feelings, like that this is hard, that you don't know what you're going to create, but you really, really like to bake, so you're going to get back into it. Or you used to be an accountant or a financial advisor. You have really strong Excel knowledge and you want to start creating spreadsheets for other women to use when it comes to navigating a budget, any of these things. Or you could be documenting by voice notes, which we will time and time again talk about voice notes and how helpful they are when it comes to transcriptions. You pull the transcript and then you use AI to help create whatever you're going to create. And I don't know, I mean, in addition to all these things, what else can they be doing in the dark, Melissa or Kristen? I don't know if Kristen, you're back.
I am kind of here. Something I would recommend when you're planning in the dark is being careful how many people's advice you're taking, how many people you're asking, how many people you're talking about things to, because everyone is going to have a different opinion. And we talk about it on the Allies all the time, is trusting your gut instinct. And then using the people that you feel align with that specific thing. So if you have an accountant friend, or you've got 3 accountant friends, use the one that you trust the most, or that's in alignment with what you originally feel. But my tip would be then just be careful of all the advice that you could be getting when you're planning in the dark, and be selective with who you discuss your divorce with.
I don't know if Melissa has a follow-up, or we want to maybe tackle. There's a good question in here that I'm kind of thinking I'd like to visit if Kristen's back.
I'm back,
Okay.
I think.
This is a good in general about parenting and parenting plans. So someone asked, how often do you recommend the parenting plan be reviewed? My kids are 12 and 8.
For 12 and 8, in general, I would say I generally draft parenting plans with a 1-year review clause. Now, that doesn't mean you have to sit together once a year, but that means once a year, you're going to go through it and draft an email to the other parent, maybe prompting areas that need adjustments. You can, I don't know, maybe Melissa can correct me on this, but in the States, can you do any addendums to a parenting plan agreement where both parents sign it? It's not going to legally go through the court, but it is we use them here, and it's an addendum to, where both parents still sign it, so that should you go through a big court case again, you do have something that you both signed. It's a paper that's you both have agreed to. So to get to the initial question before Melissa pops in, I would say you want to be reviewing you want to be going through your own parenting plan every year. Whether you make changes every year, I don't think that's always necessary with a good parenting plan. If you set up your parenting plan now with a step-up review, saying for 8 and 12, that maybe when the youngest reaches 14, that you will be reviewing, or you can already say we will step up into the next phase. So I did a parenting plan recently where the kids are under the age of 4, and in that parenting plan we have one structure and then a step up structure when the youngest turns 5 that will shift then to more time with dad. But for the beginning phase now, for the next 2 years, they will be it'll be every other weekend for the dad, and then when the youngest turns 5, they're going to be shifting and gradually shifting to more time with dad. So you can in your original parenting plan agreement already have a step-up plan in place, or you can just set a review clause. We will review this every year, every 2 years. I would personally say you want to be reading through it every year and just make sure that everything is still in alignment. In my first 2 years, I forgot to read mine and didn't realize that I didn't prompt my ex-husband that every year the maintenance, the child support is supposed to go up. So for the first 2 years, nothing went up. So just for small things like that, you want to be reviewing it. But if you actually need changes, maybe Melissa can mention if there's any addendums allowed in, I don't know, potentially could be different in different states as well.
I think typically, and I was with a bunch of attorneys last week and they were talking about, an ideal parenting plan is something you put it in the drawer and you never have to look back. And you can co-parent and you can discuss things. And when things change, you can easily get along. So when you can't, or you anticipate that it's going to be a little toxic, then that's where you're going to be going back to that agreement. But a lot of times we see that the agreements are going to cover from like here until college, so it's going to kind of have different situations that come into play, who pays for what, everything kind of outlined and modeled. The more toxic, I would say, the more detailed, but is it enforceable? Is the agreement, I mean, we've had clients who have wanted so much in the agreement that it started to make them look a little crazy, right? And because it was like they were too, attached to the children and too much kind of trying to control the actions of everyone. So I think that I don't see people revisiting and modifying the agreements as often. Like if you're going to come up with something, I would do it at the time that you're negotiating a full settlement offer strategically, because that's typically the person really cares about money more than the arrangements with the children. So if you're at a 50-50 arrangement and it doesn't accommodate for when that shifts to 75-25 over time, like I think you got to think about what different changes are enforceable. And, most of the time, people want to stay out of the system of child support. So they're just making those payments, on their own volition, basically. So that's what you always have kind of in your back pocket, that you could go through the system. But for the most part, people kind of, whatever those agreements are going to continue. And then if you have a disagreement, you might want to have a mediator that you go back to, or a parenting coordinator that is already agreed upon at least at that time. And then there's other like parenting things that just try to make life easier, so that I think you should negotiate as much as you can at the very beginning so that you don't have to make any changes in the future, but have a method of how to make the changes.
Yeah, because there's going to be a lot of changes. No, I don't think anyone has the perfect parenting plan that has never had any changes, where the parents have stuck to it to the T from birth to college, because children change all the time. So hence why we do that little addendum, because a lot of parents, even if you don't do the addendum, parents are verbally agreeing to change pickup time next year because work schedules change. Your parenting plan may be a transition days happen at 4 p.m., but now next year it needs to be 5 p.m. You're not going to go through the legal system to make those changes, but at least then get it in writing via your co-parenting app that you're using, or if you do want to sign or have an email that it's in writing and both parents have agreed in writing to change pickup time or to change pickup day or whatever that may be. Because as Melissa says, there's no parenting plan police. It's not that piece of paper is not going to save you in small changes and things like that. So it's not always about it. You've got to make sure it's enforceable. Yeah, basically what I'm trying to say.
So I kind of have like an ignorant question listening to all this and like hearing people's with teenagers comments. So kind of it's twofold. So the first one would be, do teenagers like to almost participate in the parenting plan? Like if they're maybe more, it could either be the rational side or the more like angsty side of like, well, it's, it's my life that you're deciding I want to say in this. Because that's kind of like part one and how do you handle that? And that part two, if then you then are now trying to implement this parenting plan and you have teenagers being like, F that, I'm not going to mom, like I have high school games every Friday. I'm not staying at so-and-so's house. That's 30 minutes away when the other spouse's house is 5 minutes away, like, and kind of fighting that. So how do you, those are my two questions.
Okay. So the second part of the question, yeah, you can't force a teenager. I can use an example. I had clients where the son, 14, refused to go to dad for 2 years. For 2 years, he refused to go to his dad. That was their relationship. The mom documented every time, every text, every email that she sent, trying to encourage the relationship, but you can't force it. That is where you're going to use a parenting coordinator, a GAL, or a therapist to see what is the reasoning. Is the reason, so this specific client is the son and the dad were just bashing heads. The dad was very controlling. The son had a social life. Dad lived on a farm. Mom lived in the city where he could have a social life and go to parties and go to do things on weekends. But so they had to get to the root of the problem in the long term. But you can't force a teenager. You can't pick them up and force them to go with another parent. So it's not binding necessarily for them. Anna, what was your first question? Sorry, please repeat that part.
If you've seen any teenagers wanting to be like a participant in creating the parenting plan or trying to voice opinions.
Yeah, so my parenting plan system that I have developed, we do ask that. And I generally, with teenagers, will also put in a clause stating whether the teenager has a say in any of the parenting plans. So yes, especially in amicable divorces, I've seen it a lot where the parents they use they include the teenager's opinions as well, and their preferences and their lives and their schedules. It does just become a problem when it's toxic. It's a toxic ex-spouse and a kid that's trying to assert their life and their boundaries as well.
Yeah. Okay, that was helpful. Thank you. We have another comment here that so we know this member, she's post-divorce, and so she's navigating now the post-divorce life. She said, do you have anything for what might be more normal post this, as a reference for the me's out here that waited until the children were adult age? I feel like I'm in the Wild West with everything. So I think this is more maybe generic with everything, but I don't know. Melissa, Kristen, who wants to get in there?
Well, I think she's like actually asking what to post about, right? In content in some capacity.
Sorry.
But I'll give my take on it real quick, and then we can go back
your perspective.
So I think that, Anna and I talked about this weekend, is going forward, business and the economy is going to be based on authenticity. And so the more you can just be you, your crazy your whatever, people are going to want to eventually buy things from you. And if you showed up, you would be the same person. Like what do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about that you're finding like your own, group? Because your followers, if like we've built one platform where our followers are all like very organic. We've never paid to like boost anything in that platform. And those are like ride or die. Like they'll like everything, they'll repost it, they'll comment, they'll do it's great. It's a fabulous platform. but they genuinely liked and followed us because of whatever we were talking about, right? So I think that that's all you ever, like, you almost have to get out of your head and just be very confident in like whatever you're talking about, like you are just the shit about that topic. And so when you come on, you're just saying things that like people are like, yeah, I totally agree. Like I'm so aligned with that. Like that's what you're trying to like swarm up at the beginning. And then eventually you have something to provide to them that they can purchase. And they'll be like, yes, they'll eat it up, a guide, a book, a t-shirt, a whatever, you know, a service, a product, whatever it is, they'll snatch it up because they've liked the whatever you are. So I don't think you have to think that hard about it. I think you just have to start doing it and talking about anything that you like at this point. You know, you like rivers, take pictures of rivers, you know, you want to bake, whatever it is, then you're going to find your tribe that kind of starts to circle around you that likes your type of crazy, right? I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I'd rather them just go somewhere else. Like I don't need to be bothered by it, right? That's where I think you're focused on.
Yeah.
So, Anna, before you go into it, I want to give this member, there's a lady that I followed the other day, and all she does is she took a photo of her backyard, put it into AI, and this is her opening. Welcome to my page of getting AI to make my backyard pretty. All she does is record herself that she's now making her backyard pretty, but she's got ADHD. So she narrates the thoughts that are going on in her head while she's doing the work. She went from, in a few weeks, from like 30,000 followers. She's got almost like 400,000 followers because she's narrating, excuse my language, she's narrating the bullshit in her head. And as she's digging, she's like, yeah, I was thinking this and I nearly did this, but oh well. And she's got the saying, she's British, and she's like, bish, bash, bosh, bish, bash, bosh. And it's so simple. She has no idea what she's doing, and she's narrating the fact that she has no idea what she's doing, but she has hundreds of thousands of followers now because everyone, and it's so it's unedited, it's unpolished, it's her in her PJs, and then she's painting a fence, then she's dragging her deck across the grass because she wants it over there, and so I think what I'm trying to get is there's people making content from their ADHD brains and the thoughts that they have while they're tidying their garden and making loads of money.
I love that. And I think that because I know a little bit more working with this woman independently, is that she already has the niches there, and she's already successfully with some other people launched almost kind of like a Divorce Allies, but in her own community of band of the people who enjoy the Grateful Dead. Like that is, she's created like a sisterhood of the women who like the Grateful Dead. And so she is niching down very specifically, as well as her past career. She has so much, like a very focused area that her passion lies. I think this member, it's the opposite. So the niche is there, the idea is there. It's just then sitting down and working through one thing instead of, well, okay, Instagram over here, blog over here, website over here. And that, trust us, us three on the screen, I think we've all felt that. Like me speaking for myself, I know I need to populate YouTube, but at the same time, I got to check my email inbox. I got to make sure my website's also updated, because then what if my YouTube goes crazy and then my website's not updated? And then what if my email, like it gets so overwhelming. And so my biggest piece of advice is just focus on one thing for that week. Maybe it's even longer, but I think if you say a month, that's way too long to focus on a website for a month. Do like this week, I am focused on my website because that is something I just need to focus on. So this week, I'm going to spend 45 minutes a day. I'm going to put that timer on, 45 minutes, work on my website. And I might get everything done by Wednesday if I follow that. So Kristen and Melissa, when it comes to your business and you're kind of feeling scattered and not sure where to head to, do you have any tips on like how to focus and kind of just get one thing done? Or do you prefer to work in like the everything going on at once?
I am to to-do list person. I do like working off of a list. However, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I feel currently, I used to be a type A personality, becoming a single mother, trying to run a business, move a home, navigate everything. I feel like I'm all over the place. And the only thing that brings me back is having a to-do list and a checklist, and not 30 items, 3 items every day that I need to accomplish. And there's more, but every day there's 3 at the top. I move them to the top, and that's kind of my go-to. I think a lot of mothers, we can all relate to the fact that running a home, running a business, running all of these things can be overwhelming, and YouTube and Instagram. So same thing, choose one thing, choose one little notebook and write your to-do list, or on your phone and check your to-do list every day. There is a dopamine hit from ticking that thing off and feeling accomplished at the end of the day. But when you have a to-do list that's rolling and it's got 20 things, you never feel accomplished. So that's why I say 3 things on your to-do list that need to be done every single day, 3 or 5, whichever, depending on the task.
You guys are so balanced. I love that for you.
Did
I
that sound
love that.
balanced? Did that sound balanced? No.
I think so. I think so. That's like way, way more balanced than I am. But this is where I go back to there's a waterfall, and like, I'm just an efficiency junkie. So there's a waterfall of like certain things that have to be done in order to create that other people can, like, it can flow down. But it has to be content. Like it like, you cannot pull your foot off the gas about creating content, even if you think it's lame, even if you think it's ridiculous, like, you're going to get better. But we literally it's probably going on 3 months now. We used an app. Like, I could figure out that if I just created the content and I could plop it like into a machine, how could the machine then put it everywhere, right? That's always the big thing that we're looking for. And we were able to switch to an app that's AI, basically, that takes it and puts it everywhere, right? So I know that I have to do that every week, and then service clients every week. And then the rest of it, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try again next week, because I don't think that, we started this conversation about how overwhelmed we were with what's happening in the world, what's happening if you're getting divorced and you have that. Like, it's like, okay, am I worried about the world falling apart or my life falling apart? Like, you have all of this that you're kind of struggling with. So for me, I just, I probably ask for forgiveness a lot. Like, so thank you for your patience. I'm sorry I'm late 5 minutes. I'm going to be late 5 minutes for the rest of the day because everything's back to back. Like, I just do enough, and I have to say no to a ton of stuff that I really like doing, but there's just not enough space. Like, when you're building it, it's a lot. It's a lot of time. So
I love the comment there that said eat something, because that needs to be on my list every day. My mother came and visited me the other day, and she was like, "Are you feeding yourself?" And I was like, no, it wasn't on my to-do list today.
Yeah, and then there
So,
comes
here
the
you go.
spiral because you haven't eaten, and then it's like the world is going to end because you're hangry, and when you could have just solved it by eating. Yeah. Anyways, but no, this is challenging me too, because you just heard me say I'm going to focus on my website this week, which is me actively avoiding content. You just saw me put something on the list that I shouldn't. Like, my website's fine, guys. It's just I'm avoiding recording content because it sounds better to work on my website with my headphones on, looking like, I just kind of woke up. But okay, so see, maybe start there, is if there's something avoiding on your list. just put it as number one for the day and just like put a timer on and just sit and do it. And that is what I'm going to do tomorrow. I promise everyone watching, I promise you two on the screen, I'm going to record content tomorrow for 45 minutes and I can do it. And does coffee count? Yes, just also still make sure you eat, because I'm so guilty of drinking a cup of coffee and then I'm like, well, that counts as a meal, right? Mm-mm. It doesn't when the blood sugar drops. Okay,
Well,
anything else, Melissa? Yeah.
I think it's also because, again, I'm an efficiency junkie. It's like, get some things that are going to help you create it. Like, get a, a moving gimbal thingy, get a better camera, get some of these things and tell the universe that you want to be a multimillionaire. Like, do some of the things, get a standard backdrop, like, go get a bunch of pictures to change out, get a few, do some things that make it so that it's almost plug and play and that it just becomes the norm, because going forward, the economy is not going to look the same. Like, it's just not. And we're going to be in a more electronic AI environment. And the one way that you can differentiate yourself is to be yourself, right? And to talk about things that other people relate to in a unique way. And you can't just start today and think you're going to be some creative, viral person. Like, that's not how it's going. Like, you're going to be awkward. That's okay. Be awkward while nobody's watching, and then come up with something that's not as awkward. Or, like, some people have made whole careers off of just talking about things that they wish other people would have talked about, and they get to be the person that changes that particular environment. Like, it's crazy, but you've got to get more comfortable with being on the screen or doing the things, every morning. Like, I have sweatpants on like every single day. I'm just party up top and, casual below. Like, just get a system that you start to do this, because whatever you're going to do in the future, it's not going to be a 9 to 5. Like, sorry, it's not. So take an AI course, take a social media course, take a YouTube course, whatever it is that you feel like will give you some knowledge about this space, do it. It's going to be important.
And something too, on a more like tangible advice, that if you've never, and I know budgets can be tight and I'm very aware of that, but if there are things that you just genuinely cannot do or do not want to do, and it takes you so much time, so much energy, and it keeps being put on the bottom of your to-do list, you can outsource some of these things. So for example, if you have all the ideas in your head, but you need to start putting them into like a Canva format, you can hire someone via Upwork or Fiverr and minimal an hour. I mean, and then if you have everything in a system that you're really good at organization, but you can't do the graphic design, then outsource that. Or maybe you need you're not very good at organization and you need kind of like an assistant to help get you back on track. There are endless amounts of people out there looking for that type of work. So that's also just, and of course, money, be mindful of that. But I also think the trade-off between energy spent and some money here and there, that we have to remember that energy is a currency as well. So if it's really something that you cannot do, think about outsourcing that. But I love this question here that we just got. Any tips on how to stay motivated and grounding when there are setbacks dealing with the toxic ex and the court system and everything keeps getting kicked down the road? Ex will delay everything as long as possible because they currently have everything in their favor. Ooh.
I mean, in this situation, you have to ask yourself the same question. What do I control? I don't control the court system. I don't control the delays. I don't control the toxic spouse. This is going to be an exercise in patience and distraction. So if you have to be patient and you've prepped everything and you're going through, but you get a setback, 5 more weeks, 6 more weeks, and then you're like, ugh, I'm already prepared. Well, you can continue to prepare. You can continue to put some effort towards that, or you can put some effort into some of these other things, which is why we talk about them. Like the internet, the focus on even just building your own personal brand, right? So that you're ready for selling something at some point. Like all of these things are just learning AI, learning Canva, any of those things are going to give you a distraction when you have to be patient, because you will not be able to control most of the things in the situation. Like you can't control your 15-year-old, you can't control your, soon to be ex-spouse. Like this is where patience becomes the only thing, because they're doing some of these things, delay tactics, to get at you. So the more that it is not affecting you and you're just like, okay, well, we're prepared, like here's my settlement offer. Like that's why we give the settlement offer. That's why we lay all the cards on the table, because this could be an opportunity if everybody faced reality that you could settle it and be done. But you can't allow the court system to dictate this process as well. You can have an offer out there. You can do some of these things. But at the end of the day, do you control it? If you don't control it, can you be patient about allowing it to progress? And you're doing things that you have control over, is prepping your mindset, prepping your case, and then prepping what's the next phase after this case is over.
I'd like to add to that, kind of looping what Melissa said, is where your energy goes, where your focus goes, your energy is going to grow. So focus on yourself, focus on what you can, as Melissa said, what you can control, focus on your personal growth. This may not be a popular opinion, but I think there's no better motivation than a shitty ex. Like just the fact that I have a shitty ex makes me want to do and be so much better, because I have been graceful with everything to his face. But I know that, yeah, maybe I'm petty, but I want him to be like, damn, she is doing so well. Damn, look at her go. Look at, like, I'm not like, she's not even bothered by me. Look, she's looking amazing. She's glowing. That is your best. No one can take that from you. He cannot take that away from you. So focus on you, focus on what you can control, grow, become the best version of yourself. And I was going to give an Afrikaans phrase here from South Africa, but it wouldn't have made sense now. But basically, to shove it to them is the best revenge is focusing on you and your glow up and becoming the best version of yourself.
I love it. Well, I like to end these with just like a brief exercise. But before I get into that, we're going to do a little swap up on you this month. So typically content is the last week of the month, but we're going to do it next week. So if you have any questions regarding side hustle, your business, content, anything like that, please come prepared next week. Even if you like literally any question is open. We'll be going through, again, some more hands-on things to do, some processes, some ways to get started, like today, grow in the dark, plan in the dark, and then launch in the light. So we'll do that next week. So anything you have, please bring it then. But I'm going to end us with just a little bit of some tapping. So for those who don't know what EFT tapping is, it's emotional freedom technique. These points on our body are connected to our body's stress pathways. So it's very similar to acupuncture points, and tapping these help calm the nervous system. So we're going to go through some of these. You feel free to do it yourself. You don't have to if you don't feel comfortable yet, but we're just going to go through 2 rounds and I'm going to say some affirmations. You can repeat or you can just internalize. So first you can take your fingers and we're just going to tap our eyebrow. And we're just going to release what feels heavy. So you can repeat, I release what feels heavy. Next, we're going to go to the side of our eye. So we are going to let go of what I no longer need. So you can say, I am letting go of what I no longer need. Now we're going to move to under our eye, and we are going to clear space in my mind and body. So I am clearing space in my mind and body. Now we're going to go under our nose and say, I don't have to carry everything. I don't have to carry everything. Down to our chin, I'm going to soften the pressure I've been holding. I'm softening the pressure I've been holding. Now our collarbone, allowing things to shift. So again, I'm allowing things to shift. And then your underarm. So either one or two, making space for something new. I'm making space for something new. So again, we're going to go through that again, just a little bit different phrasing. So eyebrow, I'm open to a fresh start. I'm open to a fresh start. Side of eye, I'm letting in more ease. Letting in more ease. Under eye, I'm welcoming small moments of peace. I'm welcoming small moments of peace. Under nose, I can grow at my own pace. I can grow at my own pace. Chin, I don't need to rush this season. I don't need to rush this season. Collarbone, I'm allowed to begin again. I'm allowed to begin again. And last one, underarm, I'm creating space for something bigger. I'm creating space for something bigger. Okay, maybe you need a shakeout after that, a walk, a run, or just continue with your day. But thank you. I love this comment. My daughter said it best. FTG. Yeah. I love it.
I don't know if what is FTG?
Well, I don't.
I'm sorry. Maybe you have to text it to me because I'm like, oh gosh, I'm definitely approaching 40 because I don't know what FT. I was like, I'm making a lot of different phrases.
Yeah,
but if someone could
maybe I
clarify
have
that
one
for
in my
me.
head that I don't want to say. So we can leave it all to. Okay. F that guy. Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, we all learned with the new phrase. All right. Thank you, Gen Z. Maybe she's the generation below. But anyways, ladies, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. If you have any questions, our email is hello@the Divorce Allies. You can send us anything there. And if not, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.